I'm sort of obsessed with the idea that not only can we apply the Suzuki Method to learning to play the violin, but we could apply the Suzuki Method to learning to become teachers as well. We already have our reference recordings going in the sense of watching master teachers teach, which is easier now more than ever, and half the reason that I put these videos out online. Not that I think you should watch my teaching, but I think it should be more of our community practice to share our recordings with each other. But another element of that is, how do we get high quality repetitions of teaching? Of course, we remember Suzuki said, knowledge is not skill. Knowledge plus 10,000 repetitions is skill. I was a little crushed one day when I calculated out that if I teach my students on average for 10 years and I only teach 35 students at a time, I teach for 50 years, I will only teach 175 students in my whole career as a teacher. That is far shy of 10,000 repetitions. So I'm constantly reverse engineering how could I practice and consistently practice being a teacher while only getting so many shots at it, only so many at-bats to teach a lesson. And we all know that the same lesson never happens twice, so the variables are always changing. These are the 4 that I have used most frequently, and I feel like I've received the most from doing. And I was able to do them from my first lesson that I ever taught, so I'll share them with you. Number 1, get a camera, pull out your phone, pull out your computer, and record yourself teaching. And then, this is the most important part, watch it back once without saying or doing anything, trying not to judge yourself, just watch. And then take another pass and caption yourself and the student while you watch the video. You don't have to post this anywhere, but the act of actually typing out word for word what you say has some sort of editing feature built into your subconscious that I think, or at least built into my subconscious, that has changed the way that I speak in lessons and the attention to detail to the words that I say while I teach. Now later, sort of an advanced twist of this is you can start to do kind of data tracking of your teaching. Dr. Duke at the University of Texas School for Music and Human Learning, he has this program called Scribe, and you could punch in and punch out data points. So for example, every time you said the word good, you could flag it. Or every time you gave positive feedback versus negative feedback, you could denote those. Every time the student was speaking, you could record the length of time. Every time you were speaking, you could record the length of time. You could even see a ratio of how much you played in the lesson versus they played in the lesson, and also mapped out over how many minutes long the lesson was and what percentage that was. So you can get a little technically fancy with it just by writing down and taking notes of key data points while you are watching the video. Number 2, another way to practice teaching is to have a notebook that you always have every student written down in, and you plan the lesson before it happens. I know Elizabeth Fadley plans out a 3-month arch for all of her students. So you could do something like that, have a general sweep of where you think that student's going to be by the next quarter of the year. But then this worked really well for me. I used to have to ride the bus to get to where I taught while I was living in Austin. And so on the bus ride over, I would have a notes app. I would plan out what I thought would be incorporated in the lesson. And then I would teach the lesson. And then on the way home, I would record what I actually did with the child, with the student. And then the next week, the same thing. I'd open up the notes app, take a look at what I did most recently, what I thought the next lesson was going to be, teach it, and then on the way home, write down what actually happened. And that planning and then immediate feedback of did my plan work gave me a really strong foundation of teaching, I think, and still to this day, I write down the elements of what I do in each lesson with every student. Number 3, this is the idea of Dr. Suzuki's 1-point lesson for students, but applied to teachers. So it's the 1-point lesson for teaching. You determine the one thing that you would love to change about your teaching this week. So like one single thing. You write it down on a sticky or an index card or something, put it in your pocket or put it on the stand by where you teach, or maybe put it in your case. And that's just setting your intention for the single change that you wish to make. and then reminding you in every single lesson to do that and to follow through with it. I really like this because it focuses your thinking not on the myriad millions of things that you could change, but the one thing that you're trying to permanently change in the way that you teach. And then just keep doing that until you notice permanent change, and then pick a different sticky and change something else. Right? It could be something about your language, it could be something about the structure of your lessons, it could be shutting down the lesson 3 minutes before the end of your time so that you actually start and finish on the hour and half hour of your lessons. I'm guilty of that. So consider that, writing down the one thing that you want to change. And then this is my final tip for practicing teaching that I've done that really benefited me. I'm going to call it doubling up. And that's when you have the opportunity to teach one person one thing, and then you find a way to teach more than one person that thing at the same time. So during the pandemic, when I was teaching group lessons online, I found that it was just as sort of economically easy and physically easy, because we didn't need space, that I could take my rather large beginner class and split them up into 3 separate cohorts. Then I could have the same lesson plan for all 3 classes, but then get to teach the lesson plan 3 separate times. So I would plan it once, but get 3 reps of teaching it with 3 different groups of students. And that was really cool because I could quickly adapt to what didn't work the hour before in lessons and change right away. Now my income wasn't multiplied by 3, but gosh, my learning was tripled, if not exponentially increased by what I learned that year. Because often we only get one shot at our group class with that particular level. So to get 2-3 chances to do the same thing was amazing. I've seen another similar thing happen when you start pods of students at the same time. So if you take on 2 new beginners together and maybe even teach them in the same lesson, and then you get to work with them on the same things, one right after the other, one right after the other, and teach one and then the other, one and then the other. That rapid cycling gets you a lot closer to learning from repetition than if you're only getting one shot with one student and you have to get it right first time, first try. All right, I hope you find this inspiring and you're able to slip some of this into your weekly routine and ritual. It's a relief to find out. It was a relief for me to find out that I had some ways of improving without just putting in the hours of more and more students and more lesson times and more years. By the way, if you don't know who I am, I'm Drake. I teach a studio of 35 in Ithaca, New York. Suzuki teaching can be isolating. I make these videos transparently just to give you a window into our studio, and hopefully that inspires you to let me look through the window into your studio too. I think we have so much to learn from each other. I am not a teacher trainer by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just really fascinated by these ideas and in love with learning and sharing them. So if you are interested in Suzuki education in general, I recommend teacher training, and I'm putting a link to the SAA teacher training courses that you could check out. All right, I hope you have a good week. Until I see you next time.